See the Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
That's a perfect setup because the recently indicted Mike Madigan has been replaced by the should-be indicted, for all kinds of reasons, Chris Welch, who spent a decade on the Proviso 209 school board, including as its board president. And Proviso 209 has a teacher strike going on right now.
It affects 3 high schools.
4,200 students. Proviso, the SAT test last year, 88% of students scored below grade level in math, 83% below grade level in reading. Mm-hmm. In 2021, the average Proviso 209 teacher base salary was about $76,000, which is 7% higher than the state average of $71,000. That's before benefits and the like. The Proviso teachers demanding a 12.75% increase over 3 years, bring their salaries up to north of $86,000. The school board has countered with 9% to bring it to about $83,000, and they walked out. Proviso 209 salaries have risen 41% in the last decade. Has the academic performance increased by that margin? No. Oh, and by the way, speaking of our theme music for Ted Dabrowski, in one of the communities served, or more to the point, exploited by Proviso 209, Bellwood, the median home sale price in 2020 was $163,000. The median property tax bill in Bellwood on that $163,000 house, $6,000. 3.72% of home value in property taxes in Bellwood to finance these $76,000 salaries and, of course, the real financing, the benefits for those teachers in 209. 3.72% property tax as a percentage of home value is 4 times the national average. In Maywood, the rate is 3.65%, similar. So these majority-minority communities that are being fleeced by school districts that do a horrific job of educating their children. Sorry, but those are the numbers. The numbers are brutal in 209. High truancy rate, high dropout rate. The test scores in reading and math are abysmal. And now the adults are talking about whether the adults in the classroom should get a 12% raise over 3 years or a 9%. That's Illinois in a nutshell. Yeah. Meanwhile, you're liquidating the homes of lower middle income families that are trying to strive to get to the upper rungs of the socioeconomic ladder.
And they're on spring break right now, so Lord knows if they're going to come back to school on Monday. They've been off for it, and it'll be a total of 3 weeks, and nobody cares. They tried to have a rally yesterday. A few parents showed up. It was pretty sad. But that's
what are you rallying? What are you rallying for? To send them back to school?
Yeah, that's what they were doing.
I know, but for what point? That's the problem. This is what we talked about during COVID.
Saves one life.
This is what we talked about COVID. Oh, yeah, no, it's terrible they're out of school, and then it's terrible when they're in school.
Well, I think it's worse when they're out of school right now. Yeah.
For more on this, Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints, wirepoints.com, all things Illinois policy related. Ted, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy.
So Proviso provides a example of more to come, as you and your colleague John Klinger wrote about at Wirepoints. nearly a third of Illinois school districts will renegotiate their teachers' contracts this year. So in a high inflation environment, that should be a fun time.
Yeah, if we've seen anything through COVID is how powerful the teachers' unions are. Right, they kept schools closed, and when the schools did open, they did the remote learning. They kept the mask going for as long as possible. The unions have massive power in Illinois, and at Wirepoints we've kind of shown how they have more power than virtually any other state in the country. So think about inflation now, right? Inflation is one of the biggest things impacting people today. We think about gas prices and things like that, but you can bet that these unions, when they see this inflation, they're going to want to make sure that their new contracts, which expire, some expire in the next in the next year, they're going to try to get as big raises as they can in there. And these contracts are multi-year, so these teachers are protected for multiple years. And so, think about the private sector. Nobody has multi-year guaranteed contracts with guaranteed raises and protections. But that's exactly what they have, and they're going to push like crazy. So, if parents don't want to get hit, they may want to get involved in what's happening at their school district, but for a different reason this time. We're talking about contracts.
Well, and I just want to tell you, talking about mitigations and COVID not going away and CTU control, a school, I don't know if you've heard about it, Coonley Elementary School, they're the Coonley Cougars. They've implemented and returned to mask mandates after 40 kids tested positive. None of them are in the hospital. None of them are sick. And Coonley has the highest vaccination rate out of any elementary school in the city, but yet they test everyone because that's what the parents agreed to do. Here's one of the parents.
My understanding is that the kids here are being tested at a pretty high rate as compared to other schools. So, you're going to have more positives, and I think the administration here is reacting well to it.
And Jesse Sharkey's all on board.
What I think it confirms is that we're not out of the woods on COVID, and we're still going to get individual schools where we get clusters of cases. And when that happens, we're going to have to respond appropriately. And sometimes that means masks.
And there's 6 classrooms today that they're back to mask wearing the entire time during school. Is this their way of trying to negotiate a higher salary eventually when their contract comes up?
Gosh, I don't know. I immediately go to thinking about where the parents. If that whole school district feels comfortable with it, then what can I say? But I would think that at this point, everybody should understand that the masks haven't been effective. Everybody knows that now, and gosh, it's like the rest of the state's not masked, so it's a little surprising to me. But it comes back to whether people want to accept it or not.
I know, and they're all vaccinated too.
And they're all vaccinated. So, what can I say, Amy?
It's just the stupidity that we live
in.
Well,
and that's why it kind of ties back to the taxes and the property taxes. If parents don't get engaged and start looking at what's in their contract, they're just going to have massive property tax bills. They're not going to know what hit them because usually they don't. And Dan's right about these. I recommend anybody who lives in Illinois, and of course you can drive to small cities and see how they're getting hollowed out and getting old. But man, I just recommend somebody gets in their car and drives around the South Cook communities and sees what the combination of property taxes, corruption, and high, collapsing home values. Just go drive Harvey and go drive all those neighborhoods, and it's sad, it's scary, and it's a terrible omen for what continues to happen in Illinois.
Speaking of these hamlets around the state and sort of the post-COVID cash reckoning, Westfield, Illinois, down by Charleston, the Westfield Police Department permanently disbanding.
Wow.
The decision, of course, came from the village's board. The department said the numerous Illinois police reform bills added even more pressure to the already financially constrained department, which caused many officers to resign from the department. When it comes to crime and that nature of things, the sheriff said the Clark County Sheriff's Office is going to be there to take care of the village of Westfield, just like the citizens throughout the whole county. The village will need to create a plan when it comes to city ordinances and the enforcement thereof. But what about this? Before the pandemic, we were talking, remember, I think it was the Lyons Police Department that disbanded or greatly reduced the number of detectives they had because they were facing a cash crunch because of the pension obligations. And that was a story that was all over the state pre-pandemic. Then $186 billion came in, and we stopped hearing about state and local governments being cash strapped. Now we're starting to hear about it again. We have legislation kicking around in Springfield to get the municipalities a bigger percentage of state income taxes back. And we have stories like this, a police department disbanding in part, they say, because of the pressure that those Black Lives Matter, quote unquote, reforms added to policing.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a perfect storm here. Like you said, it was finances, and it will be finances again. And those police departments and those fire funds, we have 650 police and fire pension funds. So many of them are virtually broke. They have very little money. Then you've got the combination of these cities with declining populations, and we've highlighted that 87 of the 102 counties in Illinois shrank in the last decade. So they're going to have less and less resources. And then you add into this the new criminal justice reform laws, which have been, sorry to use the word, killers for departments, because it's making it harder. A lot of those things don't come into play until the next year and the year after. But it's made policing really hard. So when you add all those things together, it's going to be really, really hard for especially for small places to find the personnel who know they won't be attacked for doing policing work. When they do policing, that's when they get in trouble, and to be able to fund them. So it's a really ugly combination. I mean, that spells a bad sign for what's coming in crime in our Illinois cities.
And on property values, when people talk about the hot real estate market in the suburbs, I just laugh and laugh and laugh, because that's all you can do anymore. If you're that clueless, if you think that math doesn't apply to Chicago, then what can you do but laugh and laugh and laugh and leave?
Yeah, Matt, Dan, we actually hired a new guy, Matt Rosenberg, who's come on, and a big part of his mandate is to talk about crime and the problems in the cities, not just in Chicago, but across the state. And, like Lori Lightfoot's trying to say that things are better in Illinois, in Chicago. She was, downplaying the crime in Chicago, because murders are down by 3 or 4 people.
Wow.
So far this year. But, overall crime is up 36% year on year this year. And last year was a crazy year. So, things are bad. And, murders are up 74% compared to pre-COVID 2019. So we're going to have to do some massive reforms, and I think this upcoming election determines a lot of these things. How do we handle a post-COVID world? How do we handle crime? All those things are sitting there on the table to be debated, and God knows whether we're going to have a good debate about that come November.
All right, he is Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints, wirepoints.com, all things Illinois policy related. Ted, thanks as always.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
If you're talking about it, Dan and Amy are talking about it. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
You want your basement to be dry most of the time? If so, Permaseal is not the company for you. At Permaseal, we believe your basement should be dry all the time, no matter how hard it rains. Hi, I'm Roy Spencer, president of Permaseal. I've heard many homeowners say that their basement only leaks when it rains. Well, you don't worry about your living room or bedroom getting wet, so you should feel the same way about your basement. Call 800-421-SEAL. We offer a free estimate, no haggle pricing, and a price assurance guarantee, so you can rest assured you're getting the best value. If you want your basement dry all the time, you know who to call, Permaseal.